You pet your cat every day. You have been doing it for years. And you have probably never once questioned whether you are doing it right. Most owners have not, because it seems like the kind of thing that does not need questioning. You reach out. Your cat is there. You stroke them. They purr sometimes. They pull away sometimes. They occasionally bite without warning, and you chalk it up to the mystery of cats. You assume the biting is mood. You assume the pulling away is independence. You assume the purring means everything is fine. But there is a body of research into feline tactile preferences that most cat owners have never encountered. And what it shows about how cats actually experience being touched, which parts of their body register as pleasurable and which register as aversive, which petting styles strengthen the bond and which quietly erode it over time, is something that changes everything about how you understand those daily interactions. This is not about judging the way you pet your cat. It is about understanding what your cat has been experiencing while you do it, because they have been telling you all along. You just did not know what to listen for. Let us talk about what is really happening. 1. The long stroke is not what your cat wants. The most common way humans pet cats is the long stroke. Starting at the top of the head, running down the spine, over the tail. It feels natural. It feels thorough. And cats often tolerate it, which owners read as enjoyment. Tolerance is not enjoyment. And this distinction matters more than most people realize. Research published in Applied Animal Behavior Science studied cat responses to being touched in different areas of the body and found a consistent and striking pattern. Cats showed the most positive responses, the slow blinks, the head pressing toward the hand, the relaxed body language, the continued engagement, when touched in specific areas around the head and face. And they showed the most negative responses, the skin rippling, the tail beginning to flick, the sudden turn toward the hand, when touched along the base of the tail and the lower back. The long stroke from head to tail passes through both the most positive and the most aversive zones in a single motion. It starts in a place your cat enjoys and ends in a place that often activates an involuntary defensive response. The bite that seems to come out of nowhere at the end of a petting session is almost always the end of a long stroke that crossed into the wrong territory. 2. The 3 places that actually feel good. The research is specific about where cats most reliably enjoy being touched, and understanding these 3 areas changes the quality of every interaction you have with your cat from today forward. The first is the base of the ears, where the skull meets the neck just behind the ear. This area is rich in scent glands and is one of the primary sites where cats groom each other in bonded pairs. When you make gentle circular contact here, you are engaging with a part of the body that the cat's own social biology has coded as the site of affiliative touch. Their nervous system recognizes it. It triggers a different response than touching anywhere else. The second is the cheeks along the whisker pads. The cheeks carry scent glands that cats use to mark objects and beings they have claimed as part of their world. When a cat allows you to stroke their cheeks, and when they lean into that contact, they are engaging in a social behavior that, in feline terms, means something close to you or mine, and I am acknowledging it with my body. The third is the area just beneath the chin, along the jaw. This is another gland-rich zone that responds to gentle scratching with a very specific physiological reaction. Watch a cat receiving chin scratches, and you will see their head tilt upward, their eyes soften, their body settle. This is not performance. This is a nervous system receiving input that it registers, at a biological level, as deeply positive. And if this is changing the way you think about your next interaction with your cat, go ahead and subscribe. Every video on this channel is built around what the science actually says, not what we assume. What we cover next is something most owners have been getting wrong for years. 3. Your cat has been warning you before every bite. One of the most consistent complaints among cat owners is the bite that comes without warning. Everything seems fine. You are petting your cat. They are purring. And then suddenly they turn and bite your hand. You have no idea what changed. But something changed. And your cat told you it was changing. You just did not know the language. Research into feline overstimulation behavior has documented a consistent sequence of signals that cats produce before they escalate to biting. These signals are not subtle to a trained eye, but they are easy to miss if you do not know they exist. The first signal is usually in the tail. A tail that was still or gently curled begins to flick. Not a large sweep, a small, sharp movement at the tip. This is the first warning. The cat's nervous system has reached a threshold and it is beginning to signal discomfort. The second signal is in the skin. A ripple along the back, a twitch of the skin that looks almost like a shiver. This is called skin rolling in veterinary behavior literature, and it is a reliable indicator that the cat's nervous system is becoming activated. The stimulation that felt pleasant has crossed a line. The third signal is the head turning toward the hand. Not a bite, just a look. The cat orienting toward the source of the stimulation before they decide how to respond to it. If you see this and stop, the interaction ends well. If you continue, what comes next is not a mystery. Every bite that seems unprovoked was preceded by at least one of these signals. The cat was not unpredictable. The warning system was simply invisible to someone who had never been shown how to read it. 4. Why petting can become something your cat dreads. This is the part that most owners find hardest to hear, but it is also the most important. For a cat who has experienced repeated petting sessions that crossed into aversive territory, who has sent warnings that were not read and escalated to biting that was met with a negative reaction, petting itself can begin to carry a negative association. Not because the cat is difficult, because their nervous system has learned what petting tends to lead to. Research into classical conditioning in domestic cats has found that cats form associations between stimuli and outcomes extremely rapidly and hold them with remarkable persistence. A cat who has repeatedly experienced petting as something that starts pleasantly and ends badly, whether from overstimulation, from touching aversive areas, or from being held in contact longer than they were comfortable with, will begin to show wariness around petting interactions even before they begin. This is the cat who tenses slightly when a hand approaches, who tolerates rather than leans in, who ends interactions quickly, who has never been labeled aggressive or difficult, just not very affectionate, and who may have been, all along, a cat with a completely normal capacity for affection that was never accessed in the way their biology actually responds to. The good news is that associations can be rebuilt. The nervous system that learned to brace can learn, through consistent new experience, to open again. 5. How long you pet matters as much as where. Research into cat petting preferences has found something that surprises most owners. Cats consistently prefer shorter, more frequent petting interactions over longer, sustained ones. Not because they do not enjoy contact, but because their nervous system has a threshold for stimulation that, once reached, flips the response from pleasant to aversive regardless of where you are touching them. This threshold is different for every cat. Some cats can sustain long petting sessions without reaching it. Others reach it within 30 seconds. The key is not to find the average. It is to find your specific cat's specific threshold through observation. The signal that you are approaching the threshold is the same sequence we covered in the previous section. The tail flick, the skin ripple, the head turning toward the hand. These are not the end of an enjoyable experience followed by an unexpected bite. They are the warning system of a nervous system that has reached its limit and is asking, as clearly as it knows how to ask, for the interaction to pause. If you respond to the first signal by stopping, two things happen. The cat does not escalate. And more importantly, they learn that their signals are being read. That this person stops when they say stop. That the space around this person is one where they have agency over their own physical experience. And that learning is the foundation of a cat who initiates contact more willingly, stays longer, and deepens the bond over time rather than quietly retreating from it. 6. Let your cat lead. The single most consistent finding across the research into cat-human petting interactions is this. Interactions initiated by the cat, where the cat approaches, makes the first contact, and remains in control of the pace and duration, produce measurably better outcomes for the bond than interactions initiated by the human. Lower cortisol in the cat. More sustained contact. Higher likelihood of the cat returning for subsequent interaction. Greater overall affection in the relationship over time. What this asks of owners is a specific kind of restraint. Not the restraint of not petting your cat, but the restraint of waiting for them to come to you. Of letting your hand be available rather than reaching. Of making contact, and then pausing to let them push into it rather than continuing the stroke without checking whether they want you to. This practice is called the consent test in feline behavior research. You make contact, you pause, and you observe. If the cat pushes toward your hand, solicits more, presses their head into your palm, they are saying yes, continue. If they pull back, turn away, sit still without leaning in, they are saying that is enough. Ending there, every time, builds the record of an interaction that respects their signals. And that record is what trust is made from. 7. What good petting actually looks like. Let them come to you. Let them make the first contact on their own terms. When they arrive, start at the base of the ears with slow, gentle circular motion. Move to the cheeks if they are receptive. Try beneath the chin. Watch their body constantly, not for the negative signals, but for the positive ones. The lean toward your hand. The slow blink. The head pressing into your palm. The eyes closing. These are your yes. They are permission to continue. When you sense the approach of a limit, stop before they have to ask you to. Let there be space. Let the interaction end while it is still good. And watch what happens over days and weeks as that pattern accumulates. A cat who has experienced dozens of interactions that ended before they needed to protest is a cat whose nervous system begins to predict petting as something safe. Something that will not be taken too far. Something they can enter without bracing for the moment when it crosses the line. That cat becomes, slowly, the cat who comes to you more often, who stays longer, who initiates contact in the quiet moments when nothing is being asked of either of you, who is not more affectionate because they changed, but because you finally gave them the conditions in which their actual capacity for affection had somewhere safe to go. If you watched this and thought about a specific interaction, a specific pull away, a specific bite that seemed to come from nowhere, that is not a failure. That is the beginning of understanding. And understanding is where everything gets better. Every video on this channel begins the same way, with a question most cat owners have never stopped to ask. And then we go looking for the real answer. Not the simplified version, not the comfortable assumption, the actual science, the studies, the behavioral research that takes years to surface and rarely reaches people in a way that feels like a real conversation. That is what we do here every single time. If this video gave you something, hit like, drop a comment, and tell us the moment your cat's signals finally made sense to you. And subscribe, because what we are covering next will change the way you see your cat all over again. The more you understand them, the closer you get to something most people spend a lifetime living beside and never fully seeing. And that is always worth staying for.